Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we're here with Kylie, and we're here to celebrate the 13,000 subscriber benchmark. So yippee yippee! And so in that community post, I asked you guys if any of you guys wanted to chat about your life stories. And so Kelly didn't mention wanting to join, but she did have an amazing story, so I kind of invited her, voluntold her. Yes. I'll hand things off to you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Kylie. I'm an ENTJ, like Joyce said. I'm an 8-wing 7.
ENTJs are known for working themselves a lot and doing things back to back, even sometimes foregoing their health for the sake of efficiency and productivity. And so, as we were preparing for this call today, you were telling me about how you were doing a lot of back to backs today, even though you're like, I was going to talk about how I'm taking better self care, but I'm also working a lot.
Yeah. I was just saying that it was ironic that, I knew that we were going to be talking a bit about all of the mistakes that I've made in the past of over and over again, just pushing myself too hard and then ultimately getting to such a level of burnout that I kind of destroyed my life and almost literally died. So I just thought it was funny because this past week I was doing so much that I was only really sleeping half of the amount that I should have been. And I was like, well, I hope I'm going to be rested enough for this thing with Joyce, because otherwise, how am I even going to talk about it? But it's just pretty ironic because I just did the same thing again. So SI trickster is definitely playing a part because I don't learn my lesson, so to speak. I don't have that emotional memory of how it was before. Like, oh, well, last time I did this, it ended up in this way and it wasn't good for me. I always will just be like, well, I have these things that I need to get done. There's no getting around that. I can either do them now or I can suffer because I didn't do them, but I'm not really thinking about suffering because I'm not taking care of myself. So yeah, there's a difference between knowing this, but then actually implementing it.
So to give people context, people who tend to value SI a lot tend to really look after their physical well-being, and they want to bring that to a homeostasis. And so when you struggle with SI, you forget to do that. And I find a lot of extroverts in general, if they are going from their dominant to tertiary function, can also, if they're in the period of looping, they can also burn themselves out by going too fast and not taking the time to slow down. And so with an ENTJ, they're both an extrovert, and also not having SI is double the hardworking and double the go, 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 go. It's a very interesting phenomenon. And oftentimes, like ENFJs and ENTJs will spread themselves so thin that they'll eventually, it's their body telling them they need to slow down. And so I know about so many like ENTJs and ENFJs, and even ENFPs at times, they get these autoimmune conditions from working too hard, the correlation between self-care and preventing autoimmune conditions that sometimes ENTJs learn in hindsight. So, yeah.
Yeah, you think it's not going to happen to me. Like you see other people who deal with health conditions and like you just think like, oh, that's unfortunate that happened to them. But you never consider, obviously you aren't going to consider like, oh, well, they brought that on themselves. And they probably didn't unless they're an ENTJ. But I very much did. I found out that I had the genetic predisposition for a rare form of autoimmune encephalitis, but I found out when it was too late because I had overpushed myself for years and years. And it was just the perfect storm of environmental stressors and how I was not taking care of myself at all. I was sleeping only a few hours a night and thinking, I'll sleep later, I'll rest later when I get through all this. But the goalpost keeps moving. And so you never do take the time to rest. And when you do get the time to rest, you think, well, I could rest or I could do this other thing that I was wanting to do. So you realize later when it's too late a lot of times that you should have taken better care of yourself.
Yeah, there's this endless to-do list. So you can always come up with something that you could be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you mentioned autoimmune encephalitis. So I'm wondering, what is that? I'm curious.
So encephalitis is basically inflammation of the brain. And you could get encephalitis from like a virus, or you could get encephalitis from your immune system basically attacking healthy tissue, acting as if there is something in there to fight, but it is your own brain. So it's basically my immune system was attacking my healthy brain tissue. And then not just my brain, because of having autoimmune encephalitis, I had related other health conditions that were causing basically a lot of the healthy tissue in my body to be attacked by my own immune system. A lot of genetic dysregulation, pretty much in every area of my body. Like the genes encoding all of the major things that you need. I mean, that's a whole long list, and pretty much everything was affected in some way, shape, or form. So,
yeah. And I find that with ENTJs, when this happens to them, they have an identity crisis because a lot of their identity is upon doing projects, completing them, and closing the loop. And so when they're not able to do that, it's like, who am I? It's just like an ESTP or ESFP who's unable to use their body anymore. And they were used to be a major sports player. And then now they can't even climb a boulder or stuff like that. It really creates an identity crisis. So
yeah.
how was that like for you? I'm curious.
Well, it was exactly what you said. It was a complete identity crisis. The way that I've seen myself and the way that I will basically assess my own value has always been based off of what I've been able to accomplish and what I've done. And I mean, part of that is being an ENTJ and being a TE-DOM, but then also the other end of that coin is having FI last, having an inferior FI. So I didn't really have a grasp on like, who am I without my work? Who am I without my accomplishments? What is just like my own inherent value? That was just a foreign concept to me. And so when you take away my ability to work, my ability to even be independent, because I've always been a pretty independent person. Like I will rely on other people if it's going to help something happen faster, or if there's like a good way for people to be able to jump in, and like I'll ask somebody like, hey, you can do this better than I can you do this for me? But other than that, I've always been pretty self-reliant. And so to no longer be able to be self-reliant, I mean, even down to having to be so financially dependent on my family, it completely takes away like your self-worth and your feeling, like the feeling of waking up every morning and being like, I like who I am and I like what I'm doing with my life and I like my life. I didn't have any of those three. Like I didn't like who I was. I didn't like what I was doing with my life because I wasn't really doing anything with my life besides trying to stay alive. And yeah, I didn't want to be in the position that I was in. And I wish that feeling of hating so much what I was going through could have been like sent back to me in the past. Because if I could have really foreseen how this was all going to play out and actually believed that was how it was going to play out, I might have made a little bit of different decisions. I don't think I would have done a lot different, but I do think I would have done maybe enough different to at least not be in such a dire position.
Yeah. You mentioned you'd make the enough tweaks to make it not get as bad as it was, but there's also a part of you that's TE, and it's like, well, I still want to do things.
Yeah.
So even if you give yourself an SI warning from the future, it's going to be like, oh, I'll kind of heat it. I'll heat it enough so I don't go through those consequences. But
exactly. Yeah. I mean, balance has always been really challenging for me. My girlfriend's an ESFP, so I've learned a lot from her in terms of balance overall, like in every area of my life. But I now do put a lot more effort into having as much balance as I can. Even if there are periods of time that are unbalanced, I'll try to then balance that out later with like kind of swinging into the other direction. And I mean, especially being an 8, I do live in extremes. So it's hard to stay in the middle. Like it's so slippery. It's like, if it's shaped like this, I can't balance up here. I'm just going to slide to one end or the other. So I would try though. I would try to have a lot more balance to maybe still be pursuing everything that I was pursuing, but in a little bit healthier of a way.
Yeah, it's nice to have someone in your life who is able to teach you balance in that kind of way. I find ENTJs tend to work themselves really hard to the point where when I want to schedule interviews with them, I kind of have to give them a 2 months notice. And so for you, you're like, yes, Joyce, I can do this interview. I'll give you a time 2 months from now. And that's when I free up from all the things that I'm doing right now. And I'm like, very structured. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, we better schedule this now because work is gonna like come in there and it's gonna take up all of the extra little gaps in the time that I have free. And sure enough, it did. So like having this already set up then is the only way to make sure that it can happen.
Yeah, exactly. If you want an ENTJ in your life, you gotta plan it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that go with your ESFP? Because she might be a little bit more spontaneous in that regard. Do you go with her spontaneity in that regard?
Yeah. SE has always been a very strong function of mine. I actually, for a while, thought that I might be an SE Dom. So I can be very spontaneous, but it's a little bit of like planned spontaneity. Like I know what things are already just in my schedule the way that they are. And because she's the most important person in my life, I then reserve as much extra time as I can for her. So that's also like that time is untouchable in terms of like, planning this with you, for example. So then besides that, then I will like other things will get in there and that's how my whole schedule will fill up. But all of the time that I have reserved for her, like we don't know ahead of time what we're going to do. Like we'll just leave the house and we'll be like, well, I don't know what we're doing yet. I guess we'll figure it out in the car, or like we'll go here and then we'll be somewhere and we'll be like, oh, you know what we should go do next? We should go this place or whatever. So yeah, I would say like the spontaneity works out pretty well. Like we're pretty equally spontaneous actually, because she's normalizing ESFP. So she does still have more structure in her life than I would say other ESFPs probably do. But at the end of the day, she's still an ESFP. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
And sometimes you can also have an inkling of what types people hang out with in their free time, because they, like in an SI way, we are the sum of the top 5 people we hang around. So I can see like the way that you dress has a lot of SE, and possibly you have a lot of SE users in your life that amplify your SE as well too.
Yeah.
So that definitely plays a role too.
Yeah.
Cool. And so Kylie, I would like to ask you some questions around your autoimmune and your journey there. So I'm wondering about the journey of acceptance and what things that you did to be okay with it. What was the journey of self-acceptance?
That is a great question. I think the self-acceptance, so just to say generally first, the self-acceptance happened very slowly. When you are like watching a kid grow up, or even like an animal, if you're watching them like age out of the puppy stage or whatever, or the kitten stage, you don't notice on a day-to-day basis the changes, but all of a sudden you can look back and be like, whoa, wait, they've grown a lot. It's kind of like that. It was always something that I was forced to face and forced to work on every day because I had no other choice. When you are able to do so little, you have a lot of time in your brain to think. And as an extrovert, I hated that. I don't like even, just generally, I don't like going for a walk. Like it makes me feel depressed because I need more stimulation and I would rather be around people. And I don't really like spending a lot of time just in my own head unless I was already in the mood. Like I'm not trying to force myself, but I was just already in like a more quiet mood. Like I'm taking a shower or whatever, I have time to like think. So being forced to have that time to think and being forced to every single day live that same pattern over and over and over again of you wake up, you feel absolutely like crap. I mean, I was hardly able to eat many foods at all. I would have like my whole body seize up, so I couldn't even move. Like I couldn't walk. I wasn't able to talk for over 6 months. I lost so much in terms of just like physical and mental abilities, even like word finding issues. Like it was so hard for me to even be able to come up with like the basic words that I wanted to say to communicate. So it's like you're trapped in your own mind and you can't escape. You can't distract yourself with SE or TE. And so every day I was just like, this is my reality, and you have no other choice but to accept it. I mean, I'm somebody who, anytime there's something I don't like, it's like, okay, well, what can we do to change it? And then we change it. And if it's something that we can't do anything about, then it's like, well, you have to accept it, because I'm not going to waste time complaining when I could be solving other problems. Like complaining isn't going to solve the problem. Now, granted, I have come to the point now where if like I have to process things with my FI and just be annoyed, I'll just let myself be annoyed. And the best way to just be annoyed is to just stop doing stuff and just let yourself be in your funk until you feel like, all right, I guess I'm over that. But you can't put it on the back burner. So anyway, basically I was forced to just go through it and forced to accept it, because there is nothing I could do. I mean, I was doing everything I could to get myself back to where I wanted to be in life, and to get my health back. But that was a very, very, very long journey of finding the right doctors and then finding the right treatment plans and then going through the miserable treatments. And so in the meantime, you just are forced to accept where you're at. And nowadays, every time, like now that I'm back in society again, every time I see people that I haven't seen for years, they'll be like, oh, Kylie, like, how are you? Like, what have you been doing? And everybody kind of used to know me as like the person who's going to go really far in life and the person who had their eye on the prize in terms of what all I wanted to accomplish. And so they're expecting to get an answer saying what all I've accomplished. But the last time I saw them was sometime within a year or two before everything went downhill. And I was sick for about 3 years. So the last time that I saw them, everything was fine, at least as far as I knew, as far as they knew. And now I'm like on the other side of that, but it feels like nothing happened in the middle besides just me being sick and just trying to survive. And so even now, talking to them and having to say, well, you know, I got really sick and here's a little summary of that. And they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And as an 8, I cannot stand the pity or the, oh, like that must have been so hard. Like, I don't want to hear it. It just gives me the ick. But I get, like, obviously I know where it's coming from. It's coming from a really good place. But it's not fun to always have to update people on how unsuccessful I've been. And granted, I've been very successful in terms of surviving, because I might not have. And in terms of literally pulling myself up by my bootstraps and getting myself here myself, I had my parents' financial blessing to help me be able to afford everything in the meantime when I couldn't work. But I didn't have like their time or ability to help me figure out like what is wrong with me and how to get me to a better place, because they're working their asses off every day too to be able to provide financially so that I could get treatments. So I basically just figured everything out myself, figured out where I needed to go with everything myself, and got myself there. I had my girlfriend's support. Like I had her, like she was always there for me, but also she's busy with her own stuff in her own life. So yes, I am proud of getting myself here. But I still feel like I can't help but feel like I did nothing and that I wasn't successful at all in the past few years. And every time that I have to update people on what I have been through in the past few years, it gets a little bit easier, because it's me again facing it and just being like, this is just my reality. Like, this is me. This is my story. It's not glamorous. It's not flashy. But that's the reality. So
I was gonna make a slight joke as a like, oh, sorry to hear that, as in you hate pity. So me saying that would like, oh, ew, ick.
yeah.
And then I would be guessing that a lot of ENTJs don't want to be experiencing pity and people feeling sorry for them, because that hits the inferior FI in some way too, along with the Enneagram 8 not wanting to seem weak in any way.
Yeah.
But also, I think with inferior FI, you don't want to make any excuses for your behavior. So it kind of sucks that you have to say something because it could be misinterpreted by the other person a certain way. So
yeah, exactly.
Because usually when you go through challenges, you just want to find out, how can I solve this problem? Okay, I'm going to solve this problem. Done. Like, why do we have to ruminate over the emotion? I find ENTJs who have autoimmune conditions can develop really strong maturity in their FI, in that they can even look like ENFJs at time. Like there's an ENTJ I have on my panels called Barbara. She also has an autoimmune condition too. And she seems like an ENFJ when you meet her. And until you get to know her brain, then you're like, oh, total ENTJ. But it's like the soft spot that develops in ENTJs after having gone through something so severe. It's like, I get it. You sometimes have to really go through the emotion. And so to audience members, don't give pity to your ENTJs when they're going through a chronic illness. What should people do for you then if you're going through a tough time?
I mean, as an FI user, I do want their genuine reaction. Like, I don't want them to kind of like gear what they're saying toward what I want. So I don't necessarily want to say, oh, like, do say this, don't say this. And I'm a big believer in like, there shouldn't be taboo things or things that you like have to say a certain way, or you have to be careful about certain things. Like, no, like just say what you want to say. I think it's more so like being able to tell where the sentiment comes from. So when people are saying like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, there's a difference between people who are saying it and like, I can tell that they know me and they know that I obviously wasn't being lazy. And I'm not assuming that anybody was thinking that, but it's just kind of like the vibe that they're giving off, that like they see it as like a, damn, that sucks that you had to deal with that, but I know you, like, obviously you made it through type of thing, versus the people who are saying like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, that must have been so hard. It's so unfair that happened to you. And like, poor you, like poor little you. So I think it's more so the sentiment behind it. But if you do tell them like, I'm sorry you dealt with that or whatever, just, you don't have to dwell on it. Like, you can just ask them about what they're up to now, or even like, how have you changed from going through that? Because I mean, there have been some people that I have talked to since going through everything that now I feel like I have a lot of a different perspective than they do. Whereas I used to feel like we were more similar. And so now it's almost harder to relate, because I will bring up like, well, now, you know, I see myself this way, and like, these are the beneficial things that have come out of it. And I can just tell that their eyes are kind of glazing over. They're not really hearing what I'm saying. And they're just like, yeah. And then they'll just bring up some other story or analogy that really doesn't relate to what I was saying. So I can tell. And that's not fun, but it's not like everybody's going to get it. So I would say just say whatever, just be genuine, and then just move on.
Makes sense. So to ask you the question that you talked about wanting to be asked, how has going through this whole autoimmune journey changed you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a really big question to approach answering, because I could give you a general answer and just say, it's completely changed the way I see myself. It's completely changed the way that I organize my goals. It's changed my relationships with other people and my relationship with like everything that I'm doing in my life. But that's also so general that I don't know how helpful of a answer it is. So basically, before dealing with everything that I've had to deal with in these past several years, my FI was like, I don't know. I don't want to say dormant exactly, because obviously it was still there, but it felt dormant to me. I think I had basically no access to it. I couldn't feel things in the moment when they would happen at all. And it really was the stereotypical, like, I would get hit weeks or months even later, with all of a sudden being like, why am I just now caring about this? And then misattributing it, like the way that I'm feeling, to something else. Cause I'm like, surely it's not that, because I don't know why. And then, yeah, I would just try to rationalize the way that I'm feeling and being like, why am I dealing with this? And like, this is pesky, and get out of my way, because I can't be wrapped up in my FI. It's getting in the way of my TE. I was super inefficient at dealing with what am I feeling and how can I get through this? I would just get trapped in whatever it was because I wasn't dealing with it. So like if I was really upset because something happened, it would be bugging me for weeks or months because I couldn't just like feel it, get through it, move on. And now that is completely different. Obviously, it's a lifelong journey. I'm not like trying to say, oh, now I have the whole thing unlocked and I'm like an ENTJ god who has no problems with any of my functions, like not at all. But I feel like I actually have a relationship with myself and what I want now. Whereas before I would just grind toward things because I thought that's what I should do. Like I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in life in terms of my career. And being fresh out of college and having graduated with majors that I basically picked because my advisor said, oh, you seem like you like this kind of stuff, you should do it. And I was like, sure, I'll do those. So I majored in them, and then I didn't know what direction I wanted to go from there. And then I got a job somewhere because it was just like in the list of things that I had found that I should apply for, and just started working there. And then I was like, oh, I think I like doing this. Maybe I want to pursue this further. Let me go back and take all these more classes during the pandemic. But I didn't really know what I wanted. I basically did things because somebody in my life would say, I think you like this, or I think you're good at this, you should do it. And then I would just give everything I had to grinding toward that without ever asking myself, why am I grinding toward this? Like, do I have reason besides being told that I should? And when I found out that I wouldn't be able to like go to med school and become a surgeon, which is what I had been wanting to do at the time, and I was taking all those classes and MCAT, all of that, I basically was like, well, now I have to figure out what I do want to do if I am even able to ever work again. Because at the time, my doctors had told me, you're going to deal with problems your whole life. Since then, I got different doctors, got everything worked out, but they had told me there's no way that you're going to be able to pursue the goals that you currently have because you're always going to be sick. And that's not going to fit with what you're wanting to do. So I basically erased that and was like, well, I don't know what I want to do now. And it took me a while to figure out. But I slowly, as I was coming to terms with who I am outside of what I'm accomplishing, that also helped unlock what do I want out of life and who do I want to be in this life. And when I know what I want, it's so easy to then know how to get there. I just have to know what I want. And it might sound simple to ESFPs and ISFPs watching, but y'all, it is not. It is not simple, and it sucks to waste a lot of time and energy and everything that you have basically to grind towards something only to realize, I don't think this is what I should be doing. And I need to go back and do this other thing. Now you just wasted a lot, and you could have been putting it into the thing that you want to be doing and not feeling behind in life. So you really need that FI. And now I do have that. And having FI, like, you can't just use it to your advantage, so to speak, in terms of helping to give your TE a direction. You also just like, you can't have a friend where they're only there for you when you want them, and they're only talking to you when it's convenient for you, and they're only helping with your problems, but you're never there for them. You can't have that. Like, it goes both ways. So FI is a little bit similar in that you can't just use it for your personal gain. You also have to be there for it when you want to be annoyed. Like you deal with something and you're like, damn, I'm really sad and frustrated about this. I don't know how to put this into more words other than I feel some type of way, and I just need to feel that, and I just need to be annoyed right now, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like what happened, and there isn't necessarily even something I can do to avoid it in the future, because you can't control everything, which as an 8 is a lesson you have to learn. And so just being in that mood and letting yourself just waste time not doing anything besides just being pissed or whatever, or being sad once you get over the initial anger and annoyance, or once you get to the point where you don't even have to feel the anger first, just immediately letting yourself be sad and wanting to cry, is actually really useful and good for you too, even though it isn't directly servicing your TE in the moment. So you have to use your FI even when it isn't convenient. Just like with a friend, you have to be there for them even when it isn't convenient for you, because you would want them to be there for you when you need it. And that's the beauty of friendship, is having somebody who you would do stupid, inefficient things for, like pause something that's extremely important, to be there for like some really random thing that they wanted to do. That's kind of the beauty of it. And I didn't have that mindset about friendships even before I went through everything that I've been through. Like I very much did see people a little bit more as pawns, and it was very difficult for me to take time out of my day to do things just for fun with people other than my girlfriend anyway. So now it's a lot easier to actually have good relationships with other people, have good relationships with myself, and have some more balance in life, albeit within the confines of still being an ENTJ.
Yeah. So it seems like before you used to have the view of friends that you wanted the friendship to add to some sort of overarching goal you had. And so it had to add to your TE in some way for it to be useful. And in some ways, you tried to justify your FI in the beginning that way too. You're like, there has to be some way to make FI in line with my personal gain or an overarching goal or some sort of purpose. I don't just want to feel for feeling sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really difficult to integrate the FI until you did. And now you're able to be friends with it, as you said, real friends with it. FI isn't just a pawn.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, FI kind of gives the depth and all of the richness of color to your life. Whereas I was just thought that's just SE, but it is FI as well. I mean, like, it makes everything more extreme in a way that's really comfortable for me as an 8. So I will feel even more happy in the moment of something when it's like everything is going well and I'm like out doing something with friends or family or my girlfriend or whoever. And I will like be even more annoyed when I'm annoyed by something, but then I can get through it that much quicker and kind of like get over it because I just let myself feel it and I didn't lose that emotion. Whereas before, as I was trying to really work on my FI, because at some point during the whole journey of everything I went through with my health, I figured out that I was an ENTJ, and it gave all of the terminology to everything that I needed, and it kind of like helped solidify what I'm trying to do and gave me reasons for like, why am I working on this specifically? I mean, would I, without MBTI, be able to say, oh yeah, I want to work on my feelings more? No. So getting that understanding of who I am, and then being able to understand that I need to specifically work on my FI, and then actually specifically working on my FI, has unlocked so much more to my life that has made it a lot more enjoyable and has just made like me feel more alive.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I noticed the transition of a lot of NTJs tapping into their SFP side later as they grow older. So an NTJ will keep living life, grinding towards their goal, getting their PhD, becoming, as you said, a surgeon. And then something will get in the way of that. They'll hit rock bottom. And then I'll meet the same NTJ again, and they'll have like all these piercings or like cut their hair, or like their style of clothing changes immediately. And I'm like, wow, they're tapping into their inner ESFP or ISFP right there. So yeah, the development of SCFI as you guys grow into yourself, like the process of rounding yourself out for sure. It can be a wild ride, especially for ENTJs to know how they feel about things. So there's that, like, they know what they're doing. They can tell you their projects, like, oh, I'm completing this and this project and this project. So asking them what they like or what's their favorite can be very difficult. And so you find like you have all these goals and projects and you want to do them. The moment you're there at the event, or that you're like, oh, I have to go there, or I have some FOMO, you're there, and then you're automatically thinking about the future as a default when you're there, in a way.
Sometimes. So I used to have that hardcore so much. It was really, really hard to actually just be in the moment and enjoy it. And kind of on a similar note, like I couldn't really celebrate things because I was already looking at the next thing that I wanted to be doing. Like I didn't want to go to my high school graduation, and my parents were like, Kylie, you literally you have to. And then I only stayed for a little bit of the celebration after, because I was like, well, I have to wake up tomorrow morning to do this and that. And then like I didn't even fly back from my college graduation because I was just like, that's money that I don't want to spend on this, and it's fine. And I was graduating early. Like I graduated early, so I didn't have, like, I wasn't there for the last semester. So I was just like, I'm already like on to doing these other things. Like, it's okay. And now looking back, I'm like, I kind of wish I would have gone so I'd have like the pictures and stuff, but it's okay. But yeah, so I didn't really live as in the moment as I wanted to. And that was actually something that I saw it as a problem. I wasn't like unaware of it being an issue for me. But I didn't really know, like, I didn't know how to change it, because it's like if you're trying to change it, it's kind of like that meme where it's like the little guy that's like, I'm going to be the most type B person ever. I'm going to stop and smell the roses, and then like inhales all the roses. It's like, you can't like be chill. You can't like try hard to be chill. So it's kind of like an oxymoron. So I couldn't really get myself to live in the moment, but everything changed when I met Morgan, my girlfriend. When I'm with her, I am completely in the moment. Like, I don't know how it is. Like, I've been around other SE DOMs, but I guess maybe because I wasn't like super close with them, it just didn't like fully work for me. But whenever we are hanging out, either just us two or with a group, I'm like, all of a sudden afterwards, we'll be driving home or whatever, and I'll be like, wait, I literally didn't worry about anything the entire time. Like, I wasn't thinking about this. I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about what we were going to do next. I wasn't thinking about this other thing that's coming up. I just had fun. Like, how did I do that? So I don't want to like just completely just say, oh, I didn't do anything, like to let that be the case. And thanks to Morgan, like she did it all for me. But it's just that like I was already trying to bridge that gap, and then she helped me bridge it the rest of the way. So you have to put in effort to fix things like that if you're having a hard time being able to have fun in the moment and then feeling unfulfilled because of it. You can't just say, oh, I'll just hang around these people. But at the same time, if you do hang around the right people, it definitely makes a huge difference, and it does pull you right in.
Yeah, it's true. Around the right people, you will be very present in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome how you were able to integrate that into your life. And so thank you so much, Kylie, for coming out and sharing your story. I'm sure it'll be very helpful to extroverts who may be overextending themselves in whatever lifestyle they have, to take a moment and to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Your body is a temple, and it's so important to take care of it. Your body is a 401k, and if you take care of your body, it can do so many things for you. So yeah.
Thank you for having me on here. It's been really fun. I have been wanting to have a conversation with you for years now, so it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you, so thank you.
Yeah, and so thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.